Great, looks like we've got a big contingent of you on, so let's go ahead and jump into the presentation. Hi everyone, thank you for joining us on the next OurCrowd Investor Educational Webinar. I'm really excited to be here today with you with three experts whose experience spans the field from working at NASA to working at Amazon to building storage companies, and they've all come here today to talk about a topic, augmented reality and drones, how applications powered by AR are moving drones from the world of gaming into mission-critical work. My name is Prescott Watson. I'm going to be the host today, and the intention is for this event to be a sort of roundtable discussion that we open up with two brief presentations, one from a man named Romeo Dersher, who you'll hear from in just a few minutes, from DJI, the world's leading, largest consumer drone manufacturer. And the second presentation from the team at EduBees, an Israel-based startup that is pioneering augmented reality for drones. As I said, my name is Prescott Watson. I'm excited to be hosting today's presentation, so I'm going to skip over to give you a little bit of background behind the people you're going to be hearing from. Romeo Dersher, who will give you a little bit more background about himself in just a few minutes, is a very interesting figure. He's been at DJI for a substantial portion of the company's history. DJI was founded in 2006 and has, as I mentioned, become the world's biggest consumer drone company. They're well over 10,000 employees, and they're selling several $1 billion a year in drones, ranging from their newest product, the Spark, which is expected to come out at just a few $100s, all the way up to very serious professional tools that cinematographers and increasingly commercial teams will be using. Romeo actually started his career in the United States, having moved here from Switzerland, at NASA of all places. And he's spent well over the past decade in an active role sort of educating the public about different applications that new and emerging technologies have. We're really excited to hear what he has to say about how DJI is starting to move from the consumer space into some very interesting enterprise verticals. And also joining us are Adam Kaplan and Menashe Haskin. Adam and Menashe are longtime friends and are the co-founders of an Israeli startup, EduBees, that OurCrowd is investing in. EduBees, as you'll hear about in just a few minutes, is a pioneer in allowing augmented reality applications to be developed for fast-moving platforms. Adam is a serial entrepreneur who's had multiple successful exits under his belt. Very interdisciplinary, everything from a company in the genomics space, and the bioinformatics space, all the way to IT, enterprise applications, and data storage. Menashe is a technologist who in Israel has worked across a number of fields, most recently having sold a company in video processing, and also built Amazon's own drone R&D development center here in Israel. And as I mentioned, my name is Prescott Watson. I'm an investment principal here at OurCrowd. And I'm excited to just be part of this discussion and be part of bringing to you, the investor community, interesting educational content that helps give you a glimpse as to what's coming up next. So without further ado, I'm going to turn over the presentation to Romeo Dersher. Romeo, are you on the line?
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm really excited to be here and to give an insight into not only DJI as a company, but what currently is happening in the drone industry, and it's very exciting. Let's do a quick introduction of myself. I am the Director of Education here at DJI, and education is an important arena. Anytime we have new technologies or anything that is new, we do want to make sure we properly educate not only the users, but also the public about the benefits of this technology, how to safely use it, and then how to integrate it in ways that it really becomes a beneficial and helpful tool. So over the past 3 years, I have been working on a variety of different projects, but my main focus has been on the integration of this technology into public safety. So on the next slide, we see a couple of areas, or some of the different areas that public safety is potentially benefiting from this technology. We have disaster response areas and firefighting, search and rescue, maritime surveillance, as well as law enforcement areas where an aerial overview can immediately make a big and positive impact. And we're going to look a little bit deeper into those areas to give you an overview of what is happening right now. But first, let me go into some of DJI's platforms, because not everybody may be familiar with DJI. We are the world's largest manufacturer of consumer and now also commercial drones. And we have platforms that attract the hobbyist, the individual that just wants to do a fun video or photography project, but then also the enthusiasts and the professionals, potentially the individuals that are working in real estate and want to do professional imagery of a real estate or a Hollywood project, like Game of Thrones, for example, that is using aerial drone technology to get some of these amazing shots. We're also reaching out to the developers, because our platforms are open for the software development kit, so that third-party developers like EduBees can create an app or a solution that runs on our platforms. And as the drone technology has moved from this consumer platform now into an area where we're seeing real-life applications being used on the commercial side, we're also adding additional platforms to our inventory to really help with inspection, agriculture, and public safety. And those can be as basic as like a Matrice 100, that's really more of a developer platform, but then also as large as a Matrice 600 that can lift heavy payloads from sensors, cameras, to even life vests or first aid kits. Our latest platform, the Matrice 200, was really designed to help public safety. So this gives you a little bit of an overview of what our platforms are here for. We want to make it as easy to use, as durable as possible, and also as autonomous as possible. And thanks to the help of third-party developers, we can integrate some really interesting technologies. So let's take a look at UAVs in emergency response situations. And I'm going to show you 3 different examples, fire, search and rescue, and law enforcement, where these technologies can make a big and helpful impact. So the first video that we're going to see is actually a real life allows incident command to keep the personnel more safe on the ground. On my next example, we're looking at search and rescue operations. Spotting a lost individual from the air is nothing new. We've seen search and rescue operations done with manned aircraft operations, but those are not only costly, but time-consuming, and sometimes there may not be a helicopter or an airplane available. So by means of drones, we can effectively search areas, and we did several training exercises where we were able to locate missing individuals in extremely short amount of times, and we concluded that any time we're using a drone, we can cut down the time it takes anywhere from 6 to 8 times faster than a 5-member ground team on foot. So that's a tremendous time savings, and also those 5 people that are now not having to go through some of these dangerous areas are being kept more safe. So let's go to the next slide. Again, 6 to 8 times faster. But now let's take a look at we can also see if there's an individual sitting inside the vehicle, and we can get markings of the vehicle that can be helpful to law enforcement. I want to show you a little bit of what this market looks like. In 2016, through our partnership with the European Emergency Number Association, we asked 600 first responders, do you think drones should be used in emergencies, crises? And out of those 600, 95% of them said yes. That is an extremely high number, and that was a year ago when this technology was even more brand new than it is today. At the same time, we also asked, do you think drones will effectively be used in emergency crises in how many years? And here the interesting thing is that about 2/3 of the individuals said within the next 3 years. And 90% said within the next 5 years. So we are right in this first 3-year segment right now. This is year 2, and I'm absolutely positive that by next year we will have even more helpful solutions available. So now let's take a look at what it is that augmented reality can provide and what AGBs will provide to first responders on a very quick overview. The team will talk a little bit more about that in their presentation, but this is what it looks like when you're looking through the eyes of a drone, in essence. This is a picture taken of a drone looking straight down. You don't see much. You see trees, you see potentially something that looks like a line, some pathways and grass, and that's about it. On the next slide, I show you what it looks like in your live view. This is the live view that the operator has with all the information that the drone provides. So we see a lot more information, but the underlying image is still the same. It doesn't really tell you the entire story, even though on the bottom left we have a map. In fact, if we look at the next image, we can see the map, and that gives us a little bit more information, but still, if you had to figure out what's happening, it's too difficult because you may not have the appropriate information. Now let's look what it could look like if we had an overlay of augmented reality. So we could immediately identify which pipe number this is. We could identify which trail numbers and trail names we are seeing, and that could potentially be extremely helpful information to first responders. Let's look at the thermal capability. So we are also able to fly a thermal camera, and we created an app specifically for the use of a thermal camera. So again, I'm going to give you an oversight of what it currently looks, and we have in our app the ability to choose different palettes, different ways of looking at the data on a thermal imager. So we pick one channel, and then we're looking at a fire incident, for example. So on the next slide, we see a whole variety of colors that indicate a lot of information. But now imagine you're in the field, you have an incident right in front of you, and you need to scale down that data to only see the most important thing, and that's the hotspot. And here we can see already where the hotspot is. Again, if we could overlay additional information on top of that, we would be able to provide even more helpful information. Like on here, we can see Clay Street is right there in the background. On the upper left, we can see the wind is at 4 miles per hour coming from northeast. That's important information because that gives the operator information about where does the smoke travel to. You want to keep your drone out of the smoke as good as possible, and having that information, knowing orientation, knowing where your home point is, where your incident command is at all times is extremely helpful and makes the operator act better and faster. as you can see, there's a lot of things that can be added on to our platforms thanks to having our SDK platforms, the software development platforms, so that teams like EduBees can come in and create solutions to help certain problems or issues. And I'm very, very excited about working with EduBees and learning about what can we provide with augmented reality on top of our DJI platforms and live streams. And I think that is going to be very, very exciting for public safety.
Thank you so much, Romeo. Next up, both Adam and Menashe are going to actually be able to kind of jump in and talk about how the vision you laid out for the usefulness of AR is, or has been to this day, very difficult to achieve, and sort of the unique and very proprietary technologies they've developed that actually enable that. So, Adam, I'd like to hand things over to you.
Great. So good morning, everybody. My name is Adam Kaplan, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of EduBees. I'm joined by my co-founder and CTO, Menashe Haskin. We are the first company to bring augmented reality experiences to anything that moves, even at really high speeds, from drones to cars, trains, wearable devices, and beyond. What's interesting is, I think Romeo did a great job explaining about drones and its ability, and it's amazing how DJI has grown from a very small company to a giant company in the last 5 years. And they built an amazing piece of hardware, incredible, stable, selling unbelievable amounts of drones, millions and millions of drones. But when we started looking at the hardware, we felt like there was definitely a missing link in terms of software, and the ability to create amazing software on top of amazing hardware brings great solutions to folks. As Prescott mentioned, Menashe came out of Amazon, and we started looking at drones, and we looked at the ability to go beyond a drone just as a flying camera, and looking at some different possibilities. Interestingly enough, we started off, we were in contact with DJI over a year ago and brought the initial technology. The initial idea or the initial launch was in the gaming space, and we released a few months ago an augmented reality game that we'll show you a quick video of that was released to the public. Interestingly enough, this is something that's been now used by tens of thousands of users. Got the community very equipped.
3, 2, 1, go.
A look in terms of how the gaming sides worked. And so we managed to look and discuss with Romeo, as well as a number of public safety, fire departments, police departments, and Homeland Security, and said, well, the ability to create real-time AR while you're to give you guys an So in terms of the public safety applications, as we have shown you the flood, so that's the typical view of a flooded scenario in search and rescue, and actually Romeo and I met with a fire department recently that was out searching for folks in a marshland, and it's quite difficult to identify where the drone is looking for, and so by augmenting the mapping as well as the GPS location, we put that on top of there. So Prescott, if you go to the next slide. We augment on top of that. So interestingly enough, one of the amazing things for us, as this is quite a new technology, drones and public safety, things are moving quite fast, both for DJI as well as for EduBees. We were talking with fire departments and asking them, well, how do you train people to fly around smoke and fire? And to our amazement, they actually go out into the field and do mock burnings. They'll burn down a small building to train how to do this. With our software, we actually can create an AR application that is just simulating this, so you don't have to do a burn to train these folks. So there's a number of examples from the public safety as well as the fire and police. And AR we're just at the tip of the iceberg. We're getting use cases quite quickly that are helping these customers. So at this time, I'm going to pass over to Menashe. So the screens look great, and it's looks quite easy. Unfortunately, in terms of our side of things, it's not an easy technology to put in place. So I'm going to let Menashe explain to you the technology and how it works, and what we're doing in terms of what we've been building the past couple of years.
Okay, so hello everybody. I will go briefly over the different aspects of the technology. So first and foremost, if you look at the drone, it's a very complicated machine. It's a robot operating in 3D essentially, and it hosts a plurality of sensors providing all sorts of information about the drone, its position, its movement, where it's looking, etc. But the problem is when you have lots of sensors, none of them is accurate because we're talking about the real world. Most often than not, they do not agree with each other because each one provides its own view of the world. They refresh at different frequencies, etc. And if we consider the developer of an AR application, essentially they want to have a single point in space that represents the drone location at any given time. And this plurality of information that is streamed from the drone is way too much complicated for what they would have liked to receive. So the first thing that we have to do is fuse the information from this plurality of drones into the single point in space that can be consumed by any application. More than that, because we are dealing with augmented reality, on top of being right, we also have to appear right, because if we change the position of this point in space too rapidly, because a new piece of information told us that our location is not very accurate or has not been very accurate, this will cause all the world around us to jerk in the other direction, which will lead to a very unnatural and unpleasant user experience. So on top of doing this fusion, we also have to take care of how real we appear to the user. A second issue that we have to address is video for augmentation. The drones were built as flying cameras. They have great sensors and require very high bandwidth to really provide the highest quality of video that they can. But this bandwidth requirement is too high for transmission over long distances. So drone manufacturers, such as DJI, record this video locally on an SD card. But that means that the video that is streamed back in real time serves more as a viewfinder. So latency is important, but it's not that important for normal drone photography applications. But the problem is, for our applications, this is the only video we have, and if we want to augment it, we need to really make sure that the latency of the video from the moment it's being photographed by the drone until it is being shown to the user is minimal, that the quality is the highest possible, it's not being degraded. And making this on a mobile device such as phone or a tablet is not that easy task. So the first two things that you have to do if you want to implement augmented reality on drones is make sure that you get very high quality, low latency video together with a fused sensor that allow you to understand where you are in space. A third aspect that we're just now getting into that is highly exciting is what do you do with this data afterwards? Currently, augmented reality applications just use the video to augment the world, use the data to augment the world on the video, and that's it. But actually, there's lots more that could be done with flight information. For example, the drone has both an altitude meter that is using ultrasound sensor, as well as a GPS and a barometer. So we have two sources of information, and if we use the barometer and GPS to understand the height of the drone, we could use height of the drone above sea level. We could use the ultrasound sensing to really get a very good understanding of the terrain below us. And this is something that we could build over time. Every time a drone flies over a certain area, we could improve our understanding of the terrain and later share this with all the users of our software that are flying over the same area. So we've been developing these various technologies for over the past 2 years almost. We've developed a lot of know-how and IP. There's over 10 patents already registered by AGBs for various aspects of the technology. Yeah, I think that is it. Otherwise, I will dive deep. Yeah, this basically just describes the flow of information I already went through.
Thanks, Menashe. So our team is led by Menashe, and we have put together a team that's comes from a variety of backgrounds. So as Menashe mentioned, he came from Amazon, where he led the Fire TV, also worked on the early Alexa programming, and was on the Amazon Prime Air delivery drone. I've worked in a number of companies, both on the security, data storage, a few different, and on the genomic side of things. We also have a number of folks that came on the application development from companies such as Playtika and Plarium, which was recently acquired last week, as a matter of fact, for about $500 million. We're working with a number of investors, that some US as well as Israeli and Chinese VCs in this round, and definitely looking forward to working with these types of customers. So we have a number of different, it's interesting, so we're talking about fire and safety, and we're not going to get into too much of, but we have a number of different applications that are coming on board from the entertainment space of customers. Prescott, if you go to the next slide. And as well as from the real estate industry is also using augmented reality. So augmented reality, as most everybody is aware of, Apple has put out their AR kit, and there's numerous possibilities in terms of phones, tablets, and AR is really hitting prime time. Everyone saw what happened with Pokemon Go about a year ago, and they made $1.5 billion. So we're really at the inflection point now in terms of AR, and where our focus is on these high-speed moving cameras and drones is a rising industry, and we believe the combination of AR can give the information to help the drone pilots as well as a different use cases to come to fruition. If you next one here, we we also have a number of different scenarios in industrial, and Romeo took you through some scenarios in the field. Next one, Prescott. And we see all different applications in terms of high speed. Even in the automotive space, we see AR as a future possibilities. So drones is something that is rising real fast, and we chose to focus on the drone space, in particular the public safety space. There's nothing better than helping save lives and in terms of making people fly safely. So our focus currently is very much on the public safety, and we believe that, and Romeo, you can comment on this, and this would be a good segue, is talk about how the public safety space is a very important market for DJI and EduBees, as this is not a nice-to-have application. This is a must-have application for these enterprises, because to make these quick decisions to help save lives or property, for that matter, is something that is making users make quick decisions as well as make quick purchases, because this is something that's a must-have, and we've seen the uptake on this as really moving quite quickly. And there'll be a number of announcements in the next couple months, both from DJI as well as from EduBees, as we move quickly into this sector. So Romeo, I'll let you talk a little bit about where you see things going on public safety, but I think maybe even taken DJI by surprise how quickly the sector has moved in the public safety. I mean, a lot of people hear about drones and agriculture and inspection, but public safety really seems to be flying, no pun intended, for DJI. But I'd love to, if you want to talk a little bit about how quickly this is moving for you guys.
Yes, thank you, Adam. You're absolutely right. Even though I've been working on this particular vertical for the last 2 years, it has extremely become a fast-growing market, because the immediate benefits are visible. And if we look at just the United States, where we have, I believe it's like 18,000 police departments, law enforcement agencies, and I think it's like 24,000 fire departments across the United States, there is a huge market. And not only that, but if a department can save costs by potentially using equipment first before humans, before their own firefighters, that cuts not only down the cost for the department in the way of injuries to somebody, or in a hazmat situation using expensive suits that potentially can only be used once to check something out, when we could do all of that ahead of time with a drone. It will not replace the firefighter or the search and rescue person on the ground, but it really helps cut down the time and the amount of information an incident commander can get to make a better and more effective decision. So there's a big market out there. And the public safety is one area where information is needed immediately. In agriculture and inspection, you have the freedom to take the data, go back to your engineering teams, go back to your workstation, review the data, and make a decision, an hour, a day, a week later. In public safety, you need information right away. And so that's where we see this space being so helpful, when we can have additional information overlaid. And I'm really excited. I know this will make the job of any public safety person on the ground much simpler and easier.
So that was actually an interesting way to kick off the roundtable discussion. Thanks for the question, Adam, and for indulging it with that response, Romeo. We had a range of questions come up around that, and I'll remind you all listening that though EduBees in many ways is an AR company with a wide range of applications, what we're going to talk about today is mostly how they interface with drones, because drones have become sort of the platform on which the value has become evident. So, and this is sort of a wide-ranging discussion. Let's open up actually by talking to a point that you had made earlier in this presentation, Romeo. you talk about DJI's drone hardware as a platform, and many people have compared DJI to a Microsoft or to an Apple, a platform player that's providing sort of like the very basic service of reliable data collection in the sky, right? So how do you think about cooperation with other players, including people like EduBees? And actually, can you talk a little bit, maybe both teams can talk about how you guys came together and determined that there was work to be done between you two?
Yes, so if we look at, just let's use the iPhone for example. When it was introduced, it didn't have the App Store availability, and it was already a very different type of phone at the time, and organizer and all of that. But then it really became this very powerful tool once we were open to apps, developers that created solutions. And the interesting thing is, even though we have a camera on your iPhone and software already built in, we go and download additional software that allows us to really take advantage of this technology that's already built in. And I see the same thing happening here. At DJI, we are providing these really strong hardware platforms in different sizes that have become so reliable and have become so powerful. And now with adding on software solutions, we can really address some of those very specific needs in different verticals. And that's where EduBees, for example, comes in as a very knowledgeable entity that can provide a solution to a problem, or it may not even be a problem yet, but something that helps make decisions better.
Adam and Menashe, how do you see your cooperation with DJI, and if you were to make an analogy about the platform and how EduBees is working with drones as a flying platform, as well as with other types of moving objects, how do you see what sort of analogy would you make to help people understand the way you position yourselves?
Yeah, I think Romeo's analogy of the iPhone, which is a fantastic hardware platform, but you need to build amazing software on top of that. The same is true even with the PC. You had IBM 30 plus years ago that had made amazing hardware, but until Microsoft came along and other types of software coming along, you need to build the combination of putting amazing software on top of hardware. We've seen that play out over and over again, first in the PC and then now on the smartphones. And we see the same history repeating itself again in the platform on drones. So this is the analogy of going of hardware with great, fantastic. Without great hardware, we can't make great software. And we see ourselves very much complementing, and there's amazing types of software that were built. I mean, who would have thought that companies like WhatsApp, which was bought for $23 billion, on top of, that company would not have existed unless the smartphone was created. So we very much see ourselves as a great software player, specifically focused on AR because it's a flying camera. So we very much see ourselves as creating this amazing software on top of an amazing piece of hardware.
And from an investor's perspective, if you look at how the AR and the VR spaces have developed over the past few years, kind of like in the drone space, by the way, not that this affects DJI, given that DJI in particular has just become sort of like the poster child for success in drones. But like the drone space, which kind of peaked in investment activity in 2015, VR has really kind of declined in the number of companies being started, the number of financing rounds happening, whereas augmented reality, not virtual reality, has really started to take off. I mean, part of that is just because the process of actually overlaying digital content onto real life feeds and video feeds is ostensibly more difficult than just replicating a digital world and having sort of an immersive experience in virtual reality. But beyond the challenges, Adam and Menashe, why do you think that AR has sort of maybe even overtaken VR in terms of the number of people interested and excited about its prospects for creating value?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of reasons for it. Number one, when you compare AR to VR, you're in, I think, for those of us who have tried out VR, you're closing off yourself from the rest of the world. And when you add in AR, you're enhancing your existing world. So AR is something where you're augmenting, you're enhancing your existing reality as opposed to creating that virtual reality. There are applications in gaming and such with VR, definitely has applications. Interestingly enough, AR, and Romeo and I are working with some third-party AR wearables companies. For the AR wearable company in particular, such as Epson, they are selling the most AR wearables into drone pilots today in the thousands, because actually the experience of flying a drone using a wearable is much better than looking at your camera. So AR is also a sector that's growing very fast, and in particular in drones, they are already selling, I mean, DJI has its own goggles, and as well as Epson. There's, in a very short time, hundreds of thousands of units are being sold. It's something where AR has a lot of hype, but right now there's actually a lot of reality of people using wearables because it's so additive to flying a drone.
Yeah, maybe Masha, given that you worked really hard to try building this platform AR for moving objects, can you speak to whether there are substantial technical challenges in trying to augment the video feed versus, kind of creating a virtual reality experience? Maybe that explains also the delay in AR's growth versus VR, and why AR sort of is peaking today versus VR, which kind of peaked a while ago. By the way, Masha, I think you might be muted.
You're on mute there.
Sorry about that. So if you think about a classic VR game, for example, then it's not all that different from game that you play on your phone or on PC. It's just rendered on a different screen. But if you consider now an AR game where objects from the real world need to be implemented and incorporated naturally and seamlessly into your experience, the amount of complexity that is involved is an order of magnitude higher, because you do not only need to create your world, but you need to make it cooperate with your real world in real time. So really understanding that this is a house, or this is a tree, or this is a car becomes a huge challenge that is not being required to be handled for the VR application. So yes, AR is much more complicated. I have to say in this regard that working with a drone that provides us lots of information about where it is and where it's going really helps us in tackling this challenge, because we do understand we have lots of information regarding the movement of our camera that is not always available to the implementer of an AR application on just a phone or a tablet, if they're developing a general application. And we of course take advantage of that. So if I know where I am, I know my terrain, I know where houses are because I'm connected to a mapping service on the web, etc. I can take advantage of all this information when implementing my AR application.
Let's kind of jump into talking about the cool applications that are being developed that you all are working, cooperating on to develop the public safety market. Adam, you brought up training in particular. Maybe just to better understand the use case there, Romeo, could you kind of explain how drone, customer success in the drone world works when a team buys drones today? What's the current process to get that team up and running with these systems and creating value out of them?
Prescott, that's a really good question. We're in an interesting time right now because we have all this great technology available off the shelf, and anyone from a hobbyist to a fire chief can go and just grab this technology, go home, charge the batteries, and start flying. Even though our technology has become so easy to use and a lot of redundancy is built in, it still takes training to perfect anything that we do. And that is true especially when it comes to public safety. And currently here in the United States, national standards are being developed that help ensure that a firefighter in San Diego gets the same training as a firefighter somewhere in Tampa, Florida. And that is important because we want to not only ensure that we train our ground people in public safety the same way, but that they get the proper information that is needed to really utilize the technology. And right now what we're seeing is that a lot of fire departments may not have access to live burn training facilities or limited access. So they go out into the field every couple, 3 weeks, and they do training exercises in the field. And that is great stuff as well, because you need to get the motion down, the muscle memory, and you can do a lot of exercises in a field, but nothing is as real as doing the real thing. And if you have the craziness of an incident site where you have flames and smoke and you have noise, you have people running around, traffic, and now you have to operate
you have power lines,
machinery, you gotta have proper training. And anything that we can help with augmenting that environment on top of what it's like out there and during a training helps create you to become a better pilot. And that's where I think augmented reality will come into play as well, to simulate in a real life environment with what you could encounter out in the field.
go ahead.
Let me talk a little bit about a few of the training scenarios we're working with, a few of the, which will just give you a little bit of practical. So amongst the early customers, the training scenarios, they range from a house fire to a wildfire, as well as Romeo mentioned, hazardous materials. So how do you practice looking and finding what is that hazardous material? The ability to go in and focus and understand what is that chemical spill, and training somebody to go in with the drone and look and see what is written on that canister. So there's a number of scenarios that just when somebody goes out into a field and they don't have to burn down a house, they can actually now do a few augmented scenarios, whether it be a house fire, a wildfire, a search and rescue, simulating all these types of things. Because as Romeo mentioned, when that emergency situation hits, people stop thinking as well, and so the more you can practice in these scenarios is something that we're working with these. And the issue that some of these departments have had is that they may do one training and then they don't fly a drone for a month. So when they now need to practice, and they need to do these things. So we work with these. So training is an important aspect of this, as well as the real life decision making. So I don't know how to put it in percentage of training versus the real life scenarios, but the both of them are very important.
I know you can't name names.
Another point. Two things that we introduce are repeatability and progress. So currently it's very hard if somebody didn't fly well and they want to train over the same scenario again. It's very hard because the wind changes direction, maybe the weather changed, it's not the same house. So practicing to achieve perfectness is very hard using real buildings. Whereas if you are flying one of our scenarios, you can fly the exact same scenario again and again and again until you perfect it. And then you could make progress in it. So today I'm flying just a house. Once I get this under control, I could add power lines next to it and figure out how do I operate next to power lines. And we provide warnings when you get too close to power lines. I could add wind, and I could add a very low wind to start with, but make it stronger and stronger to train you with various amounts of wind. I could add trapped people, I could add hazardous materials, and really let the pilot improve and perfect their skills as they train. On top of this, I could give a score for how well did the training go, so decisions maker and higher ranking officers could understand how their pilots are doing and who is the better pilot and who needs more training.
You know, somebody actually, well, this kind of addressed one of the questions about how useful the training apps are, but one thing you brought up just spurred a whole set of other questions, how you simulate wind. So maybe talk about like the fact that you integrate so deeply with DJI's SDK allows you to kind of create a gust of wind and force the drone in a certain direction, you know, without the pilot intending it to do it. Can you talk about how you even simulate physical interactions with the environment?
So it goes in two ways. First, the simulated smoke need to react with the wind and drift more quickly in one direction. And on top of this, we could simulate a gust of wind pushing the drone aside simply by sending the command to the drone to drift aside without the user moving their sticks, because we can implement these commands directly from the software.
Very cool. I know you can't name names, guys, but could you sort of describe the types of organizations you're currently talking to? I'm speaking to the EduBees team at this stage, and then maybe beyond that, even just talking about the general sort of customer and market discovery and market development efforts from both of your sides. How you are trying to get AR applications on aerial platforms used in these environments, how you two plan to work together on that?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, so we have a number of fire departments as well as Homeland Security customers that are using the platform today. They are rolling out as we speak. We are getting from a variety of types of industries, some that surprised us a little bit even where they came from. There are some of these organizations have up to 4,000 drones. Some have 10 drones. So it's just very dependent as to which ones we're talking about. But there's no shortage of mission critical work. Even yesterday, Romeo and I were talking about what we're actually really focused on now is making sure that we are building in something that's very broad that could hit a number of these types of organizations. The public safety market is giant, so we need to make sure that we get an MVP that hits enough of these types of organizations. There's it's tens of billions of dollars worth of organizations. So right now we're focused on delivering to these selected customers. And then there will be a DJI Enterprise Conference towards the end of the year where we'll be coming out in full force with these selected customers. And there will be hundreds and thousands of customers to sell this to. But what's very important is to make sure that we've got it exactly right before we start selling to thousands of customers. So we're working with a handful of those now, and we'll be rolling out to those hundreds and thousands towards the end of the year.
So, sort of as the last question, Romeo, as you represent the public and industry face for DJI in many respects, and as DJI is sort of the leading drone company in the world, how do you work to get additional people and stakeholders interested in using aerial data? I mean, in some ways, it seems obvious why the value is there, but like any enterprise sales process, there's an education and sort of an interest generation component. How do you currently work, and sort of what do you see yourselves doing with EduBees going forward to continue developing this market?
Well, the exciting part is that all of this is still very brand new, and a lot of questions are out there that we may not have the perfect answer just yet, but that's anywhere. If you go back in history, anytime new technology got introduced, there's that learning curve, and there are early adopters that jump right in, that use it as is, And with their help, with their feedback, the product gets refined and made better and stronger and more helpful. We're seeing the same thing happening here too. There are lots of things we want to do and improve upon, and working with those entities that are actually using the technology and getting their feedback and working internally with our R&D teams. That is how you scale all of that to the place and point where it becomes an extremely helpful tool. And so my focus really has been of, first, I need to understand what the needs are. How do these public safety entities operate? What are their challenges? What works, what doesn't work? And then I was able to start transforming from learning to, okay, let's find solutions. And solutions can come from internal sources, but also now external sources in forms of hardware additions or software. And I ever since we opened up our SDK access for third-party developers, I said, DJI will continue to improve upon the hardware, and our hardware will become better and better, but the real power, the real excitement will come out of software applications. And that's what I'm seeing right now. And just 2 days ago, I was asked, well, you know, we've been hearing about AR for so many years, and there has nothing really been out there that has made my life easier. And yes, that is very true. We've been hearing about it, and we've been seeing some cool game-like applications. But we are now really starting to see integration of AR that is going to impact us beneficially all across. And if we can combine that with our hardware, I think that's the winning combination.
Very cool. Okay, well, we like to keep these things very tight on timeline. Looks like we have. We're just at the hour now. So thank you all for joining us. For those of you still on the line, thanks for sticking with us through this entire webinar. Recording will be made available in the next few days. And I encourage you, if you're interested to learn more about this area or about EduBees in particular, either reach out to us at investor.services@outcry.com, or you can always visit our website, outcry.com. If you log in, you'll see some additional information about what's going on at EduBees. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.